Canadian Special Operations Regiment, known as CSOR. Let's take a look. Let's go.
Under a scorching African sun in the middle of the Sahara Desert, an elite team of secret Canadian commandos gets ready for action. These are the troops Canada sends into the toughest missions, to take out high-value targets, to rescue Canadians, to go where no one else dares. Their official name, the Canadian Special Operations Regiment, CSOR.
I like that. Slid it into home.
The team leader, Jordan, 30 years old, a career soldier.
There's TV cameras everywhere, and they're probably going to look at your target, so don't miss. New rule, no missing.
They make it look effortless, but to move, shoot, reload, and shoot again with that kind of speed and precision is a skill that takes years to perfect.
This is the baseline for what we do. Everything else gets bolted on, but this is the first thing that we need to be proficient at, be safe and accurate and efficient with our weapon systems.
That's a very good point. You see a lot of the sexy stuff, the jump out of planes, spy rigging. But if you can't shoot, be safe, and do it effectively, everything else is just a waste of time.
Did it take you to master this?
Me personally? It took a little while.
But these secret soldiers aren't training for a regular war. They work in the shadows, covertly, in small teams. Deployed all over the world, these Canadians can fight on land, air, or sea. At 34, Steve, a corporal, is already one of the oldest on this team.
Steve, why did you join the Canadian Forces?
I saw it as a challenge, and I've always dreamt of it when I was a little guy, about being in the army.
It's a long way from the degree in fashion marketing he got before joining CSOR.
Well, after my tour in Afghanistan, I came back and I decided that I was gonna give it a shot. A lot of people think of the special forces community as these muscle-bound, super jocks that go running around and think they're better than everyone else. But in reality, we're pretty much, regular dudes that just hang out, go do our job. It's just our job is slightly different. That's all.
He's exactly right. When you see some of these FS units, you couldn't pick most of the guys out from a crowd. You can have the tall guy, the thin guy, the muscled guy. Like, he's got a degree in fashion marketing. You wouldn't put that on his resume if you were thinking about him.
It is.
Slightly different, try dangerous, and shrouded in secrecy. We can't show you these operators without their sunglasses or hats, and we can't.
What is it with shrouded in secrecy? Hear that everywhere. That's the new buzzword for the press.
Tell you their last names. This security extends right up to the unmarked helicopters they use to fly them in and out of remote and dangerous locations.
Start from the back. We have our right side door gunner who's in charge of the GAU 21 50 caliber machine gun.
The 35-year-old pilot, Jamie, a captain, shows us around his Griffin.
Sorry, what would you use this gun for? Because these bullets, if we can get a shot of them, are massive. Like,
Porter's
they're the
asked the
size
dumbest
of my
questions.
hand.
They're self-defense. It's for self-defense out here, so we'll employ it for self-defense reasons.
What kind of scenario would you need to use self-defense in?
If someone's shooting at us, if someone is engaging us with a type of weapon system, we can use self-defense in that scenario.
I don't see many of the helicopters equipped with 50 cals. Do you guys? Normally it's 30 caliber. I don't see why they have a 50 on it. Very interesting. Put that in the comments.
Sounds vague. Truth is, Jamie can't tell us when, where, or if he's ever used these weapons. CSOR's missions are classified. What we can tell you, in Afghanistan, these were the men sent on covert operations against the Taliban.
Is it hard to explain what you do to your friends or your parents?
You can't just go to your friend who works in an office 9 to 5 and say, yeah, well, I'm going to be gone for a couple months and I'll catch up with you later. And then he asks questions and you're, well, I can't really say exactly what I'm doing. And so it makes it awkward.
So what does it take to join one of the most elite military regiments in the world? Lieutenant.
I had good friends who were in SF units, whether they be in the Marine Corps, or in the Navy. I never asked what they did. I kind of got the concept. They didn't want to talk about it. They wanted to have a good time and unload and relax and drink some beers. So if you got a friend that's asking you, you're in an SF unit, get rid of that friend.
Colonel Hank Celeste is CSOR's commanding officer, and one of the few we don't have to disguise.
Within the military, we're very much a performance-oriented culture, and it's always that fear of failure that prevents a lot of guys from just, taking that chance and stepping forward. So I always tell the guys that is the biggest criteria for success, is just taking that step forward and applying.
Details about the selection process for those wanting to join are classified, but the operators confirm it's grueling. Weeks of pure hell.
I personally wanted to succeed this, so there was no way of me quitting. So it's that kind of attitude you have to go in with it, and you also have to be fairly intelligent. They test you thoroughly, mentally and physically.
Is there?
By the time you go to boot camp, you go to infantry training, go to selection, every step's a building block. And so the first one you thought was going to be daunting was easy after the fact. So everything's after the fact typically. Normally don't see these guys saying the training's too big of a deal because they've done operations that were far more difficult when they get out into the fleet and the Marine Corps' example.
Certain kind of person that is most likely to get selected.
You've got type A personalities who are hugely invested in their jobs, and they just want to knock it out of the park, right?
So why are they here in the middle of the Sahara Desert? Counterterrorism training in Africa. For the first time ever, they've allowed television cameras behind the scenes on one of their missions. We're in Niger, a West African country that is one of the poorest in the world.
Oh, you guys know Niger, right? That's where the Green Berets got ambushed. So I'm sure these guys are doing the same type of work there, which would be training the indigenous peoples that are on our side. Exactly.
An annual military exercise, and this year, 18 Western and African nations invited here by the government of Niger, working, training, and living together at desert military bases like this one near Agadez.
Working with those indigenous troops, they're kind of military typically. The way they behave, it's like they never had any training. You can train them up all you want, but sometimes the cultures are hard to get across. It's a challenge.
It's all been organized by the Americans. James Linder is the Special Forces General in command.
At the end of the day, whether you're in Niger or any other country, it's the host nation's problem. It's their fight. It's their effort.
He worries this entire region of Africa is at a dangerous tipping point. With kidnappings, arms smuggling, bank robberies, violent extremists are well-funded and well-armed. In Niger, May 2013, suicide bombers kill at least 20 people.
These guys aren't out working the field or at a desk job. Question for you guys. Where do you think they get their money? Put that in the comments.
And in neighboring Mali in 2013, Al-Qaeda tried to take over the country. Niger worries they're next.
Ce message est envoyé à la France, aux États-Unis.
And few understand more about how these extremists operate than former Canadian diplomat Robert Fowler. This fanatic, known to Fowler as Omar 1, was one of his kidnappers, an Al-Qaeda terrorist.
And he's shaking his finger. What's he saying to us?
This is to tell you that the Mujahideen, the warriors of God, are ready to do what's necessary to spread God's word.
In 2008, while on a UN mission in Niger,
they wrap this up in God, and I don't want to get too political, but it's about money, right? And power, which go hand in hand. Fowler
and fellow UN diplomat Louis Gay were abducted at gunpoint and thrown into the back of a truck.
The whole thing happened in about 40 seconds. Very slick, very professional.
They were held captive in the African desert for 130 days.
Well, that was fun.
How do you get through the day in that situation where you're thinking that at any moment these people could decide to kill you?
Mm-hmm. And some of them said they would. Omar too would constantly say to us, we would really like to be cutting you up in little bits, but unfortunately the boss won't let us.
I don't understand the mentality. You want to fight against your enemy, you want to do what's necessary. But cutting someone up, I don't get it. I guess that's a different mindset from where I come from.
Boss was Mokhtar Belmokhtar, a feared and elusive one-eyed terrorist, responsible for the 2013 attack on this Algerian gas plant, killing almost 40 foreign workers.
We were filthy to them. We were obscene. We were decadent Western apostates. They would get physically ill. I mean, in the trucks when our shoulders had to rub against their shoulders. They really hated us with a passion.
Listen to that again. I'm not even going to say it, but listen to that. That's the problem.
I think what you're saying would surprise a lot of Canadians. They don't think people hate Canada, but they hated you.
They really hated us. They believed we were evil.
Mm-hmm. Mokhtar is still alive, most likely still recruiting, even winning over some of our own. 2 young Canadians from London, Ontario, Christos Katsouribas and Ali Medlej, died in the Algerian attack, newly converted mujahideen. That's why CSOR's training mission here in Niger is so important. We follow along as they teach these Nigerian soldiers the basics of shooting.
Okay, les gars. Rapprochez-vous pour le brief.
This is probably the most dangerous part of their mission there. These guys are well equipped to handle the bad guys, but not idiots that don't know any kind of control with a weapon.
Garde la position que Jesse prend. Ne rien ne change. Armée chargée!
They share the reconnaissance and sniper skills.
You go through the basic sniper course.
26-year-old sniper Jesse gives us some insider tips.
The actual shooting is a very small part of actually being a sniper, which is unfortunate, but true.
2-on-1!
Canada's...
That's a great point. See a lot of young guys that want to be a sniper. They don't realize that the 1% trigger time is 99% stalking, prep, and getting there. It's not a sexy job.
Critical contribution to flintlock, strategy, and tactics. Jeff, a major, is the Canadian Task Force commander.
What are some of the skills that you would be teaching them?
We force them to work together to conduct things like raids or ambushes, so surprise attacks, which is a very important skill for them.
These African soldiers are learning how to plan a raid on terrorist cells. The Canadian commandos show them how a helicopter can survey and track the enemy's secret hiding spots. And these toy soldiers? Looks like child's play, but it's serious business. Jordan is teaching the Nigerians how to plan an attack.
So the 1st Nigerian platoon, Lieutenant Jabril, comes up into the assault position. The vehicle should be moved. Vehicles are going to come up? Should be moved. Yeah.
Okay. Today,
most of these type of countries, this is what it is. These guys are in the military, but they don't get near the training what we expect.
Everyone is gathering to analyze the final battle plans and to put on a show. These Nigerians never fail to make a grand entrance. And the Mauritanians. These are proud professional armies with their own traditions. The Africans usually don't work together, but facing dangerous terrorists, they have no choice. And the Canadians, watching from the sidelines, will hopefully manage to keep this coalition together.
That's like herding cats, trying to get 2 militaries, 2 different countries that don't like each other to agree on anything.
Are uniting, sharing best practices, operating in common, and sharing intelligence. We'd better do that too. And that is what exercises like Flintlock are building, and it's very important.
I bet his position on this has changed significantly. He went there bright-eyed, ready to save the world, but I bet when he got captured, he was awfully glad to see the Canadians show up to save him.
Deep in the heart of the Sahara Desert, African and Western forces get ready for battle. Among them, the Canadian Special Operations Regiment, an elite team of covert soldiers. Their mission here? Counter-terrorism training in Al-Qaeda's newest breeding ground, Africa. They may be getting ready for a mock raid, but the threats of violent extremism faced daily by these individual soldiers are very real.
That's one of the reasons these FS troops are trained so hard. They're going to go out, train indigenous forces who don't have any concept of weapon safety, the value of life, like we do. They're not training with even the regular Canadian Army, which is a certain level of professionalism. There's probably as much danger working with the indigenous forces as there is fighting the bad guy.
As the sun rises over the Sahara, the African armies take their positions. CSOR's commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Hank Celeste, is overseeing this final exercise.
You could see how the guys moved quickly. There was little talking, good communication at the team level. All that's indicative that they really have hoisted aboard the skills that we've imparted over the last couple of weeks.
But this is why they train. War waits for no one. The mission must go on. They'll rely on runners for communication until finally...
21st century, and they're going to rely on runners. So you see, the technology doesn't always solve the problem, especially in this case.
Roadhouse 1-2, good to have you with us.
Some of the radios are working now.
Helos inbound, on call for HR.
The helicopter flares signal the start of the raid. The objective, take out a terrorist cache. All the armies descend and the Canadians are right there with them, analyzing their every move.
Roadhouse 1-2, Commando, if you guys can either confirm or deny that you have one of the high-value targets.
Success. They've captured the cache and eliminated the actors posing as the enemy. But the training isn't over yet.
He shouldn't be doing that either.
It's not his job.
No.
Not his job. That's the role of the medics. He should stay focused on his surroundings. Yet while we're teaching these African soldiers our trade secrets, how do we know they won't switch sides?
And that happens all the time. You could think of our enemies of the past or people we're fighting today. Google that and you'll really appreciate what I'm saying there.
Concerned when you're here ever and you're training these forces that you could be fighting the same people down the road who you've trained.
Absolutely. You know, it's like in any relationship, especially at the start. A relationship, as you know, is built on trust, and you don't get that every day. So as we work and partner with different nations, especially in the initial stages of a relationship, we're always cognizant of what we're doing in terms of capacity building.
It's like your little brother. You can teach him how to fight, but you're probably still going to beat him up.
That's more than just teaching them how to shoot. Capacity building also means helping African armies care for their own people. Like at this health clinic, organized by Western Special Forces. Lieutenant Colonel Colleen Forestier, a doctor, is with CSOR in Niger too. And here's
You can do all the training you want, give them all the equipment. Once we're gone for a few years, it'll revert back to the way it was for the last 1,000 years.
Another example of how they win over hearts and minds. Caleb. He's their logistics officer, and he's a common presence in these markets, showing the face of Canada to the local residents.
Do you ever feel that you're in any kind of danger when you're out and exposed in this way?
First and foremost, you know, everywhere we go, you know, we're always prepared. You know, their heads on a swivel. Vehicles are always parked in a way they can be driven immediately away. We always travel in partners. I don't want to say there's no danger because obviously there are violent extremists operating in this area.
You stick out there. You're not going to fit right in and look like a local. So there's always danger in those type of places.
CSOR labels itself a high readiness unit. That means they can deploy anywhere, anytime, always on call. Hank has a wife and 2 young children back in Canada. How do they manage while he's gone on secret high-stakes missions?
The men and women of the regiment are very strong-willed people. Families do adapt to some of the chaotic environments that we force them into.
Divorce is a problem in society in general, but I'd tell you it's probably twice as much of a problem in the military. So he's downplaying a little bit, but it's a challenge for families to stay together when you're deployed half the time.
Many of the team are gone for months at a time. Caleb is getting married soon, but has only seen his fiancée 2 weeks this year.
And how does she feel about you being away so much? And sometimes I'd imagine you can't tell her
where you're going or what you're doing there. And for the past month, that has meant training soldiers from the world's poorest nations to fight their own wars. The exercise is over. Mission accomplished.
Hey, if you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. For my current subscribers, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching.